I think that powerlifting is the best sport ever, and here's why. Growing up, I played just about every single sport that you could think of: football, baseball, basketball, whatever. I did solo sports and I did team sports. Team sports really never worked well with me. When I was about a sophomore, junior, I realized that I didn't like football anymore when it had been my passion for many, many years. The reason I realized this was the fact that I could work so hard and try so hard, but we could still suck or not be doing very good because other people don't care and other people don't try. So that part didn't really sit well with me. I didn't hate the team aspect, I just hated the fact that for us to be good, everybody had to be as good as each other. And for someone like me, who I'd like to consider myself maybe a little bit better than the average, I had a D1 offer. Um, yeah, it was really hard to deal with that, right? So I couldn't just sit around and watch other people not take stuff seriously when I'd be training my ass off and people wouldn't care. Then we go to boxing. I did boxing when I was 13 to 14 years old. I really liked boxing. I really, really liked boxing. I love the fact that I was in control of everything. Everything that you do in boxing is all up to you pretty much for the most part, right? I mean, you have a coach in the corner, but it's up to you, right? It's you versus you. It's how much time did you put in? How fast are you? How hard can you hit? Stuff like that. And I really like that fact. I like the fact that it's like, it's you. It's simply you. And but over time, I learned that I did not enjoy being just punched in the head. I legitimately thought I was going to get stupider. I mean, I don't know why, but I legitimately thought that I was going to get stupider. So over time, I couldn't do boxing anymore. And football is kind of the same way. I felt like in football, I was getting bigger and heavier, and the game was getting faster and faster, that I felt like I was seriously going to injure something at some point. And while lifting injuries still happen, I feel like they're not nearly as rare, or they're not nearly as common as like football and boxing injuries, right? I feel like both of those two, the injuries that could come from them are just crazy. And then, I mean, like, just thinking about big brain damage is what my mom was most concerned of, right, for boxing. So those two didn't end up working out, but those two were my favorite. When I found powerlifting, I realized that it was literally both of those mixed around and put together in a sense. Powerlifting is an individual sport, but you are still lifting in teams. And what do I mean in teams? So when I was 15 years old, I joined a gym for the first time ever. It was a small hardcore gym called Iron Fanatics Gym, now out of business. But it was like a small group of us like-minded people where we would come together and we would work and freaking work. We worked to get stronger, we worked together, whatever, right? But what I liked so much about being in like this group of people that just trained and worked so hard was the fact that everybody pushed each other. Everybody was happy to see other people's results, but at the end of the day, they could only get results for themselves. So it was basically a team sport, team aspect pushed into, but it's still you doing the work. So I love that feeling. I love that feeling. And as years pass, I'm able to look back and compare that to powerlifting is similar to Olympic weightlifting. It's similar to bodybuilding. It's similar to strongman, right? And anything that requires being in the gym is basically the same. Any sport that comes from the gym is basically the same. You guys work in teams, but it's a solo winner, right? And now that I can look back at other sports, I can realize like gymnastics is like the same thing. Track and field is just about the same thing. But the thing that I was most built for was powerlifting. Realizing that powerlifting was best for me, I decided that I was going to stick with it and run with it. A quote that I heard from Tom Platz was he wanted to win the Olympia because he wanted to be pronounced the world's most developed man. He wanted them to say his name in the fact that he was the world's most developed man. Ever since I heard that, it almost changed my life, honestly. It made me look at powerlifting differently because I thought, I really like the idea of being the most developed man. Like, that's really freaking cool. But I don't have the genetics for that, simply. And I'm not the biggest fan of lifting 8 to 12 rep range. I'm more of a 1 rep type guy because in football, it was more of like a one play and then you go back and reset. One play, go back and reset, right? It's not like basketball where you're running back and down the court and you may do that 12, 15 times before you get taken out. I was really big into football. And so this is where I saw the football translate into the powerlifting. it's like one single rep, and it's a team aspect, but it's really you decide where it goes. So all these things are falling together, and that's when I realized that Tom Platz quote could be modified and turned into my own quote. I want them to pronounce me as the world's strongest man. Not the world's most developed, but the world's strongest. And I understand strongman has that title for giving people world's strongest man, but I like the fact that you can train for strongman, but you can't know what's coming. I like the fact that somebody could stand with a weight on their back, take it down and stand back up with it, and be pronounced the strongest man to ever do that, to ever do those 3 specific lifts. I love that fact. And I hate to say it this way, but until you hold 700 pounds on your back, and you take that down and you return back to the standing position, or you hold 400 or 500 pounds in your hands and you take it down and you move it back to where it was starting from, you won't understand like the full feeling of it, right? I mean, actually anybody could feel that feeling, right? If you deadlift 4 times your body weight, I haven't done that. I can only imagine what that feels like though, right? Like, but the feeling that I get when I'm powerlifting is just different. The empowerment. That's something that I had never felt in any sport before. Because when you do one thing that you've worked at so hard, and when you do that one thing, a squat takes like 4 seconds, literally. From the time you stand up with it to the time you rack it, maybe 5, 6, 7 seconds max. But literally 7 seconds, think about that. To do that one repetition, to be the strongest man at it. And I just love that idea. I want them to pronounce me as the strongest man who ever did that lift. The strongest man to ever do all 3 of those lifts combined. Right? I just love that title. And that's why I think powerlifting is the best. I think it's mixed with football on the fact that it's like one single repetition. I think it's a team aspect, but instead of the team, everybody has to like participate for the team to win. Your ass is doing it yourself. You have to go put in the work. Nobody's gonna put the work in for you. People will motivate you, and that's what we do all the time at the gym. People motivate each other, but nobody's gonna actually do the work for you. And that's why I love powerlifting. And I just want them to pronounce my name as the strongest man to do something. And I love the fact that when you stand up with a weight that you just did like 600, 700, 400 pounds, whatever. When you stand up with that weight and realize, I just took this weight down and stood back up with it, the empowerment feeling is like no other. So that's really why I think powerlifting is just the best sport ever. Obviously, people may not agree with me. Obviously, people may like bodybuilding, gymnastics, volleyball, whatever it may be, right? But to me personally, for those reasons I just explained, I believe that powerlifting is the best sport ever. That's Blake Went. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'm out. Peace.